Hope you're all doing well from your summers and school is going well, even though it's online and very different this year. But something that's not different is how we're starting fall music. We're actually gonna get out our xylophones that we got from music camp this summer and do a little more with those before we move on to something else next month, okay? So really quickly, you should still have these with your mallets. They look a little different than these. But if you don't have those, let us know. We can get them for you here at the church, okay? What's a little different this time is that these things that you'll need are available in an email for you to print yourselves. We didn't have a drive-by where you could pick these up at the church this time, but that's okay because these are really easy to look at on your computer screen, or you can put it beside your video, or you can print these out. They're yours to keep and print as many times as you need to and want to. So really quickly, we have another little book, but this time it's much shorter. It's just a few pages. And this will go through the activities we're going to do today. And then you've got 2 copies of our song for today and a little about that. So moms and dads, you may want to print these based on what your kids want. So if you remember this small chart from this summer, I put it back in here just for reference, okay? So remember, those of you that can't quite read the notes yet, you can learn this with the colors, and that is just fine. So what I've done differently for you is now the note names are actually in colors themselves. So this should help you transition as you get older into the black and white version, okay? So now, how does this work? What we're doing today is we're learning about tied note values. For you older ones, you might remember this from choristers. And we're learning multiple parts. So what you get in any printout you do of the song, whether it's the one in color or the black and white, you get the full score, which means it shows both the parts, okay? So you would either read the top line of each system or the bottom line of each system, okay? But you won't need that by yourself, so you can tuck that away. But you have part for the melody and a part for the harmony, okay? So you can choose whichever part you want to learn, and that's the sheet you'll need. But why I gave you these is so that you have the other one, and if you're really ambitious or want more to do, you can learn the other part. And you'll see later that there are videos that go with each part, okay? So the same is the case for the regular sheet music that's in black and white. You've got the full score, the melody, and the harmony, okay? So that is a little glimpse at the things you'll need today to get going, and I'm excited and look forward to seeing you downstairs. So the first thing that we're going to go over briefly is just a little review of things we did this summer. So this and this for sure are very similar to what you saw in your book. In fact, they're exactly what you saw in your book from this summer. So we'll go over those things in a moment. This should be similarly familiar. It was a little different though, what you saw. But the first thing, how do we hold the mallets? Probably not like this, right? So we hold them between our fingers and our thumb and roll our hands over, okay? So that's a quick reminder on how to hold that, and you'll see that in the videos of the examples of the pieces in a moment. How do we read the notes? So that deals with this, which is a little different depending on your stage and what your ability is. So if you're one of our younger ones, you can follow the colors just like you did this summer. That is just fine. And if you're one of the older ones that have had music somewhere or with me, then you already kind of remember how to read notes on the staff, and we touched on that this summer. So this is just here as a reminder. If you want to use the colors, that's totally fine. I'm glad for you to do that. You will notice that for those of you who are using the colors, what's different is this summer I gave you these boxes around the notes. And what you'll see in your packet is the notes themselves are colored now. So I'm hoping that will help you transition to reading the notes on the staff without the boxes, okay? So that's just a new thing. And then how do we read these rhythms? Well, that's why I put this chart in here for you, is so that you have that reminder, okay? We start with a whole note, which gets 4 beats typically. In our case, it will be 4 beats to a measure. And then we just divide that out. So we've got the half note, the quarter note, and the 8th note. Don't worry so much about the 16th notes. I just put that in there so that you would have it for some stuff that we'll do coming up in the fall, okay? So that's just a quick review. If you need to, go back and watch the videos from the summer. They're still posted, and that'll be a little more rhythm exercise if you need a reminder. But let's dig into the new stuff. One thing new we're going to do today is talk about tied notes. So what is a tied note? That sounds kind of funny, right? Well, it's this little line right here that looks kind of like a curve or a swoop, if you will. So these, when you see them, they can connect any notes. It doesn't matter if they're the same kind of note or if it's a different kind of note. So you can have a quarter note connected to an 8th note, just like in this picture. Or we can have a whole note connected to a half note. It doesn't matter. All this does for us is holds this beat in place, but we don't play again, okay? Now, that might sound a little deceptive. And what does that mean? Well, let's look. So, when we've got the tie, in this example here, this note gets an 1/8 of a beat. This note gets a quarter. So, quarter note, 8th note, okay? So if we were looking in this example, and here it is, let's see if we can blow this up just a little bit. Oh, we can't. So, right here, and you'll see this on your printed page, is where you've got an 8th note going to an 8th note, half note going to a quarter note. Here is a quarter note going to a quarter note. So you'll notice these go over the bar lines for the measure every time. So in an example of, let's say, 4/4. So in 4/4, which is what our song is in, let's say we have this quarter note going to a quarter note, just for the sake of being easy right now. And then we have 2 more quarter notes just to fill out the measure. Now, when we see this tie, this beat stays in place, but we don't actually make a sound or play on that beat. So, some of you remember the dotted note from several times ago, and the dotted note and the tie do similar things. So, this note here actually gets 2 beats, so it's kind of the same as having it written as a half note and 2 quarter notes, okay? So this is just a quick, rough example of how this works. So we could play this, but this is what we'll see. So just know when we have a tied note that you're getting the length of the note you were tied to. So if this note were tied to an 8th note, then it would be a quarter note plus an 8th note. If it were tied to a half note, it would be the quarter note plus a half note, okay? So you get a total number of beats that way. So if we were to count this out without the tie, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, because that tie is there, we count it out 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that make sense? Let's try another example. Look at this example in your packet. Hopefully you've printed this out. If you've not, that's okay. You can look at it on your screen. I find it's easier to have it printed so that you can write on it. So just go through and note where the ties are. It's helpful for you to just be able to see these places. Some ties are little and some are big. So it just helps draw attention when you know where they're at, okay? Now, some of these are kind of hard, and it's okay if you can't get them. All I ask is that you try them. This one here, if we're looking at it together, is 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Do you see how I did that? We clap on the notes that are written, but when there's a tie, we hold it. So if we're just doing this little group here, so that would be 3 and 4 and that is 1 and 2, okay? Just this much. Let's look at this. So this would be 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. One more time. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. We just hold this because it's tied. If that doesn't make sense, stop this and study these things and keep watching this and see if you can make sense. If you remember how to do this, older ones especially, write in your counting and that will help. Now, some of these, like I said, get kind of hard. Yours in the song today will not be that hard. So give these a go and I'll see you in the song. So, as I mentioned in our intro video, there is a black and white printed version of this, and there's the one in color. So for those of you that are in color mode, what you'll notice different is that rather than there being a box around the note, like there was in our summer packet, now the notes are actually just colored themselves, okay? So, follow along with those on your notes on the xylophone, and you'll be good to go, okay? Get the rhythms as close as you can. Now, for those of you that can, just like in our little exercise in the previous segment, take a pencil, print out your sheet, and find all of the places where ties exist. That will help you in doing this, okay? Once you've done that, come back and we're going to count and clap this just like we did in the other exercise, so that we kind of have a roadmap of where we're going in the song, okay? Is this where you found all of the ties? I hope so, because they're marked with the little swoops, the curved line, okay? So, now, just an example, when you play this tune and start to learn it and watch the videos of the demonstration, this tune will sound familiar to many of you, I promise. For now, let's look here. So, we've got a lot of eighth notes. All we're doing is doing the 1 and 2 and counting that we mentioned a few other times, okay? So if we were to clap this first line, looking with the tie here, okay? So you've got a pickup measure, so we really just start from the end of beat 3, okay? And like I said, it's helpful sometimes if you write in your counting. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Does that make sense? Parents, you might have to help your younger ones if they need a little extra encouragement on that. So just to get going, if we're in a slower tempo, say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Does that make sense? Now I'm going to clap without saying the counts, okay? So I'll start us in and then I'll stop talking. 1 and 2 and 3. Just like that. If you want to, you can leave the ands out and just do the beats, the downbeat, the large grouped beats, not the ands, okay? The off beats as we call them. So if you're doing that, you might find that you stumble when you get to the tied notes, and that's because here the tie is onto the main part of the beat rather than the offbeat. So it kind of makes placing that one a little tricky, but try it anyway. So we're at 1 and 2 and 3. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's kind of harder, but you get my drift, okay? Now, if you do this through the rest of the piece, you see these ties happen a lot. So let's look here at the second line, the second system. So if we're just starting at the beginning, and I think it's easier if we put the and counting back in. So this would be, we'd be coming from a held beat 3 and 4 because it's a half note for everyone, either part. So, and I should mention, I'm on the top part, okay? So, if we're held for 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, understanding melody versus harmony, and you'll see this on your printed page, okay? Melody is the tune that we sing. So when you start playing this, you'll figure out the tune is very familiar, and that tune is called a melody. That's what we remember. The harmony, like you see here, is a part that accompanies. You remember this summer we talked about accompaniment and how that was music that supported the main tune, the melody? Well, now, just like I did with the organ and the piano this summer in playing accompaniment, you will play accompaniment in the way of being the harmony. So, in what we're about to do, you will see the full score, just like this, and then you will see these parts individually laid out for you, just like here. So here is the melody part, okay? This is the main tune that you will recognize, and it is fine if you just want to play this one. That is totally fine. But if you would like a challenge, then you can learn the harmony part, which is here. And it's a little more difficult because it is not always going to where the ear would have you think you're going. So what I mean by that is when we know a tune in our head, our mind, we can somewhat hear it, and our actions when we're playing are based on what we expect is where we're headed. But with harmony, it is very deceptive. Like here, we're going to a much lower note than we would otherwise, and you'll see that in the previous part. So what I want you to do is take these parts and lay them side by side, or look at the full score like the first page and compare where these notes are going that are different than the melody, just so that you can get a sense of how harmony works. Even though it's not the tune that you're singing, that you're used to singing, we sing harmony in hymns and in choral pieces and play harmony in bells all the time. So I'm hoping this will give you a better understanding of how harmony works with the melody. So what you're going to see next is there is a recording of the melody by itself. Pastor Amy Mack came and played that for us, so you'll enjoy seeing that. That will be this first part, the melody. She played that. In the second recording, I have played for you the harmony. Now, we give you both of these recordings so that if you're working on the harmony and once you really have it secure and are ready to perform it, you can play this harmony part with Pastor Amy playing the melody so that you can experience what it is like to be the other part. Now, some of you are lucky and have siblings at home that can play the other part. I encourage you to play them together by yourselves. Use the videos if you would like, but play them together since you've got the benefit of having someone else in your home to play the piece with you. Otherwise, feel free to use these videos of me and Pastor Amy demonstrating these. And then you will have one video at the very end, which is Pastor Amy and I playing together both parts so that you can hear how we sound doing it together, okay? If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to send me an email. I hope this is fun for all of you, and again, I'm glad you're with us this fall and look forward to doing fun things with you. Yeah. Two.